Hello, my name is Chuck Levy, and my report comes from the Veterans Administration healthcare system. It is offered in the spirit that, one, our field was born to provide rehabilitation to injured warriors, and two, that the VA is the largest single employer of physiatrists in the U.S. Before I proceed, I feel I must acknowledge the elephant in the room, by which I mean my flowing COVID locks, which prompts strangers to ask me how I'm enjoying my retirement. In fact, I did retire from the VA after 21 years of service last year, and am now employed by the Henry M. Jackson Foundation for the Advancement of Military Medicine in support of Creative Forces, the National Endowment for the Arts Military Healing Arts Network. My presentation is entitled A Physiatrist Journey to Deliver Creative Arts Therapies to Veterans and Service Members' Homes via TeleRehabilitation. As I begin, I'd like to pose the question, what if there were an untapped, commonly available adjunct and accelerator to rehabilitation that was close at hand and free for the taking? My journey started when I joined the VA in 1999 as the Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation Service Chief at the North Florida South Georgia Veterans Health System, where I found myself leading an occupational therapy care coordination project called the Low ADL Monitoring Program, an intervention to support elders in their homes through occupational home assessments and daily text-based monitoring. Unfortunately, the OTs were too busy as care coordinators to provide actual OT to the widely dispersed population of rural veterans we were serving. It irked me, and I began to ponder solutions. Next slide. A light bulb moment occurred in 2009 when the VA Office of Rural Health was looking for demonstration projects. Why not physical, occupational, and recreational therapy via home telehealth? We'll call it the Rural Veterans TeleRehabilitation Initiative, or RVTRI. Our 6-page application was successful and amply funded, which meant I had to figure out how to actually deliver the service. It turned out that the VA was developing its own secure video network. We hopped on and hired the therapists and told them confidently that they were going to see patients by video. With a little ingenuity, we adopted conventional practices from 3 dimensions to 2 dimensions of the home computer monitors. Funding for the original grant was supposed to last 3 years. In order to keep the project running, we submitted variations of our original proposal, including the addition of a speech therapy intervention and supported employment services. In 2014, with the help of Jill Sankey at the UF Center for Arts and Medicine, we added creative arts therapy to the team. Creative arts therapies include art, music, dance, movement, drama, and poetry therapy. Practitioners are trained both in their disciplines and in counseling. Creative arts therapists use creative and expressive processes of art making to improve and enhance the psychological and social well-being of individuals across ages and health conditions. Meanwhile, Creative Forces, a National Endowment for the Arts program, was providing creative arts therapy to Department of Defense bases, starting with the 4-week intensive program for TBI and PTSD at the National Intrepid Center of Excellence at the Walter Reed Medical Center, also known as NICO. I've included the National Geographic story highlighting the use of art therapy at the NICO. In 2017, 2 big events occurred. The first was we teamed up with Creative Forces. They were looking for telehealth solutions for creative arts therapy, and we had them. Creative Forces funded us to help them with telehealth implementation and also funded our first music therapist to join our RVTRI team in Gainesville. That same year, RVTRI was designated as an Office of Rural Health enterprise-wide initiative, allowing us to fund and mentor other VA sites to provide creative arts therapy on an ongoing basis. The focus of Creative Forces had been on TBI and PTSD, which commonly coexist among service members and veterans. I think of conventional talk therapies as reductive in nature. The patient is encouraged to inspect painful memories, to break them in smaller components with the idea that the individual will be able to reassemble a more healthy self. Unfortunately, conventional exposure therapies are often intolerable because they require repeatedly revisiting horrible memories. A second factor is that traumatic events often linger in the senses. The sights, smells, and sounds of the events persist. Words alone often feel insufficient to relate these traumatic experiences. In creative arts therapy, individuals are invited to engage in creative expression as part of their trauma recovery. Engaging in guided creative expression is empowering and integrative and builds up rather than reducing, and may access memories more directly than with talk alone. Next slide. Here you can see some of the art products from a specific patient. And what you can see, this is a full-length quilt for a first-time quilter. And she shows us what's behind the mask of her everyday existence. You can see the struggle, the stress, the pain, the trauma that's written clear across her and is what she experiences every day. While Creative Forces is focused on trauma, the RVTRI not only focuses on trauma, but also applies creative arts therapy wherever it might be helpful. Here, the veteran with Parkinson's disease is home with his wife. He is connecting to a dance movement therapist and a guitarist who's off screen. The guitarist is singing Unforgettable, while the therapist guides the couple to dance to the music. This is a map of Creative Forces and RVTRI sites at the Department of Defense and VA facilities, but this service is actually expanding. RVTRI is now partnering with the Veterans Health Administration National Program Office to add creative arts therapists to 40 additional VA sites. And Creative Forces is also involved in research. It's now funding $1.3 million for 2021 through 2023, divided amongst 4 centers to fund feasibility and pilot studies to answer important questions in music and art therapy. These are the 4 studies that have been funded, and I'm involved as a co-investigator in the second study. So I started by asking, what if there was an untapped, commonly available adjunct and accelerator to rehabilitation that was close at hand and free for the taking? And I think that creativity and creative and artistic and aesthetic expression are that force. Creativity is associated with flow states and increases in happiness. It can release cascades of large quantities of endorphins, serotonin, and dopamine, can reduce depression and isolation, can be helpful in dementia, can boost the immune system and improve cognition and hemispheric connectivity. So I'd like to begin to close with some lessons and implications, leave you something to think about. First of all, I think that the VHA can be a change leader and that physiatrists can lead that change. And I think that implementation and demonstration projects can proceed and drive research rather than having research establish evidence that leads to implementation and demonstrations. Creativity, aesthetic experience, and arts involvement are all potential vehicles for transformation and rehabilitation. And I'd like to suggest that creativity should be a routine health practice that we practice ourselves and encourage for our patients, along with diet and exercise. And I think physiatrists are well positioned to lead this. And that's my presentation, and thank you all for your kind attention.